and welcome to Cover Story. Today I have with me indeed a very special guest. I have with me Dr. Karan Singh, a living legend really, Renaissance man. He is a former Sadr-e-Riyasat, former regent of Jammu and governor of Jammu and Kashmir state. He's been a union cabinet minister. He's been an MP 4 times Lok Sabha, 4 times in the Rajya Sabha. Someone who more importantly has seen, I think, all prime ministers ever since 52, from Jawaharlal Nehru to Narendra Modi. Dr. Karan Singh, you are indeed, I have to quote Shashi Tharoor here, the best president we never had, but...
Is that Shashi was that Veer Sanghvi?
Oh, Veer Sanghvi said
I
that.
think it was Veer who said it first.
I think many people have echoed it since, whoever said it first, but it holds true. But so good to have you on the show with us, celebrating also 75 years of public life. What a record, sir.
Quite a long time. I started young, you see. I started at the age of 18. And now I'm 93, so 75 years.
Some would say you were born in public life. From the minute you were born, you were...
More or less, I suppose that is also true.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting stint. But I'll, begin with the current situation as it is. We are, you always like, I've heard you rather quoting, when you joined politics, you quoting Nehru saying you want to be part of a brave new adventure.
Yes.
To build a new India. How has that been for you?
Well, it's been exciting. He called it the exciting adventure of building a new India.
So certainly better than mine.
There's been no lack of excitement.
Ever since.
Sometimes of the wrong kind. I mean, the excitement that's going on now in Parliament, I'm afraid, is not the sort of excitement that Nehru spoke of.
That's true. In fact, I heard your farewell speech in Parliament.
You liked it?
I
Okay.
enjoyed it. And, you said it and I agree, we miss speeches like that. I would add yours to it. You quoted Madhulimay, Bhupesh Gupta, Atal Bihari Vajpayee.
We had such great speakers in Parliament. When I came into Parliament in 67, there were, as you said, people like Madhulimay and Nath Pai and Hiren Mukherjee. And, they were really spellbinders. And they took the government over the coals. But there was never any talkhi, this bitterness that has come into our politics. Talkhi is the only word I can think of. That is not a good thing. You could be opponents without being enemies.
I think that is, you're right, is missing. But ye jo new India, abhi bhi new India ki baat chal rahi hai. So what is different in this new India and the new India you all brought about?
Well, India will always be new. You see, then you must remember, Priya, that we had become independent after centuries. And so there was a euphoria. You can't, your generation can never imagine the sort of euphoria there was when we became independent and how young people wanted to get involved in the whole process. I grew up reading Discovery of India and autobiography of Jawaharlal Nehru. So, that is what really impelled me.
How has your equation with Nehru been? Because, he and, there was also a time when Sheikh Abdullah and your father was...
Yes, well, I'm afraid...
So it's been up and down.
No, his relationship with my father was not a good one. They intensely disliked each other, shall I say.
Yes. In that many words.
In that many words. But he was very good to me. I mean, to me, he really took me under his wing in a way. And he mentored me. I mean, I was so much younger, so there was no question of being an equal. But he mentored me and guided me from 1949, when I began public life, till he died in 64, 15 years. And there's a whole volume of our correspondence. As you know, Penguin has brought out my correspondence with Panditji and with Indiraji, 2 separate volumes. So he was a mentor and a sort of iconic figure at that time.
And then, of course, you worked very closely with Indira Gandhi also.
Then I was in her cabinet. Indira Gandhi moved one step further. I moved out of J&K politics into national politics that I had always wanted to do and got a very good opportunity. At 36, I became a cabinet minister for 10 years to do. Because Indiraji often, changed her people and broke her cabinet. With me, she was very good. 10 years, she didn't touch me.
You survived uninterrupted 10 years. But how do you see today Nehru is being, a lot in the conversation? He's being vilified. Yes, secularism. Yeah.
No, you see, Jawaharlal had his own ideology. Basically, it was mildly leftist, socialist, democratic ideology. And therefore, immediately after partition, he was particularly keen that the minorities should not, who are left here, should not feel now that now the Pakistan ban gaya, so we will be now discriminated against. So I think he bent over backwards to try and assure them.
Did he overdo it?
Maybe he did, or maybe the party did. But that is what they say, It's not really so much a vote bank, it's a question of trying to bring a huge section of the population out of any kind of fear psychosis.
But that began also what they are saying, Tushtikaran, appeasement politics.
That's one way of looking at it.
And your ways?
Well, the thing is, I happen to come from a Muslim majority state. Don't forget that.
Yes.
So, I've lived with Muslims all my life. We grew up, like we went to our own temples. हम मखदूम साहब जाते थे, चरार शरीफ जाते थे, बाबा ऋषि जाते थे, हाजरी भरने. We never had any difference. Dogra rule, 100 years, by and large the relations between Hindus and Muslims remained very good. Me particularly, growing up with these new ideologies and all, I have never had any animosity of any type against the Muslims, neither they against me. But on the national scene, you see, there's no doubt that Islam has spawned a lot of extremism and a lot of terrorist groups, many of whom have been active in Pakistan, in India, across the border and all. So that has brought a bad name to Islam generally.
But now there is a debate कि secularism को हम constitution से drop कर लें, socialist, secular. You spoke a bit about it in your farewell speech.
The thing is, secularism and socialism were put in. They were not in the original preamble. They were put in by Indira Gandhi, and during that the emergency, which emergency itself was a dark chapter, but she put in these two words. Now, they can stay in or they can stay out. More important is what we're doing with it, with secularism and socialism. Socialism now is, I must say, a bit of a passé term. There are different types of socialism. That is, socialism with Chinese characteristics and socialism here, socialism. So socialism is now not a really preferred ideology, although
Everybody is doing it. Even I would say जो रेवड़ी politics कर रहे हैं, ये भी socialism ही एक है.
well, depends how you define it. And secularism, if it means treating all religions equal, that is certainly good.
See, जब अभी प्राण प्रतिष्ठा हुई थी अयोध्या में, you were one of the few Congress leaders who welcomed it and who do.
मैंने तो 11 लाख रुपए भी दिए थे.
अच्छा.
मैं रघुवंशी हूँ, मुझे तो देना है.
So, how did उस समय a lot of people were questioning religion and politics का mixture and.
You see, you can't, in India, it is impossible to keep politics away from religion. Just not possible. Because religion is so deeply entrenched in the Indian psyche for various reasons that it is not possible to do that. What you can do at best is to see that there is no overt discrimination.
From either side.
From either side.
Today, do you see what is the mahal today? How do you see it? Are you worried? Are you? Do you have?
I am somewhat worried. I must tell you, Priya, at the way society seems to be once again polarizing. Whoever you speak with, they tend to speak in negative terms about the others. Now that I find is dangerous. You see, I've seen it happening. I saw how the freedom movement grew, and how ultimately Jinnah triumphed with his partition and the disasters that accompanied partition. You see, we are all very proud of our freedom, and rightly so. But we often forget that lakhs of people lost their lives and they had to go from one country to another. So a big price was paid. There was no violence against the British. That Gandhiji assured. But there was a lot of violence between ourselves. So that sort of thing won't happen again, of course, but whenever a society starts getting polarized, then there's always some kind of a trouble ahead. And that is something we must prevent.
The society is getting polarized. Even now, Gandhiji is getting polarized. You have, people praising Savarkar versus Gandhi.
Well, that's okay. People can have their own favorites.
But you've also met Prime Minister Modi, I think.
Yeah, Prime Minister Modi, yes. You see, after there are only 3 prime ministers who have done 3 terms. Jawaharlal ji did 3 consecutive terms. Indira Gandhi did 3 terms, not consecutive. There was a break and then she came back extraordinarily. And Narendra Bhai has done 3 terms. So they've all been unusual leaders because without that they have not been able, nobody would be able to do 3 terms. And Narendra Modi is a very powerful speaker and has his own views on a lot of issues, that's rightly so. You may agree with some, you may disagree with some, but that's a different matter.
Does India need a strong leader or one party rule, or are we off better
Certainly
off
not
with,
one party rule, certainly
but
not.
they are the ones.
Because we are, you see, we are so varied. If you start from Ladakh and you go down to Kerala, every state will have their own food, their own dance, their own language, their own culture, their own literature. How can you put them all into one melting pot? You can't do it. Every state has its own speciality. So it is a federal system, or a quasi-federal system, as some people have put it. Granville Austin, who wrote the first commentary on the Indian Constitution, called it a quasi-federal, meaning thereby it's generally federal, but the centre does have special powers to intervene. So we have to maintain that federal character. We cannot, certainly certain laws and all can be made common as they are, but I don't think a single party rule is what we need. And I don't really think anybody is actually going to work towards one party.
Well, yeah, it depends. If even within a party, if the voices are allowed to be heard, then we allow, then there's a reference. But I can't have you here not talk about the removal of 370 and the road ahead. And
The 370 has a long history. First of all, 370 and 356. They are 2 different things. 370 was the mechanism because the Indian Constitution was not ready at that time when J&K acceded. So there had to be some way in which there was some constitutional relationship between J&K and the rest of India. So 370 was put in as a temporary clause because J&K was to have its own constituent assembly, which we had ultimately. I called it into being. We made our own constitution, which I signed into law.
As the regent.
As the Sadr Riyasat. So we had that. That is why it is a temporary provision. Now that has changed. Well, okay. Everything changes. My father's rule changed.
How did your father accept the fact that, the same Sheikh Abdullah who got him ousted from the state was now you accepted to be Sadr-e-Riyasat?
I know. Well, that was a problem for me. That was a difficult decision, I must tell you. But I was determined to get into national politics. I didn't want to get out of politics. I wanted to do whatever I could within the structure. And so when this came, and Jawaharlal ji said, Tiger, you should accept this, it's useful. We need you there. So I said, okay. I mean, my father wasn't very happy, but there you are in life, 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood with 2 paths diverged for me. I took the one and then that led on to the other and the other and the other.
The road you took led to 1953, so maybe you were not so far off in the dismissal of the government. I'm going to hold you here, but just a quick break, then we come back to this conversation. Hello and welcome back to a cover story conversation with Dr. Karan Singh. Now, Singh, before the break, we were talking a bit about 75 years of public life. I mean, what an achievement, sir. But during this time, you met with, I think, almost everybody who's important in India's political thing. So, who are the prime ministers you would say, name three who have actually made a difference to
I
India?
would say Jawaharlal Nehru, Indira Gandhi, and Narendra Modi.
These three.
This is the most effective prime ministers in India.
Not just because you're a congressman.
No, I don't. But these are only two of these are congressmen. The third is not.
Third is not. But what about Narasimha Rao? A lot of people talk about liberalization.
He was there. He did every prime minister has done their own bit. Narasimha Rao was really Manmohan Singh, and that whole liberalization was very important for India. So I knew him all. But you asked of which of the ones which are most effective. I think these three are the ones.
But in terms of people say that Narendra Modi is a lot like Indira Gandhi. Would you agree to that?
I don't know. I've never worked with Narendra Modi closely, so I can't really compare them. But I would think they're more comparable to Jawaharlal Nehru.
That's interesting.
Because it's very interesting. Both of them were charismatic leaders. Both of them constantly traveled. Both of them drew huge crowds. Although in Nehru's time there was no social media and all. Not social media. There was no technological media, even no television or anything. But he traveled constantly. They were adulated in the country. When they were the prime minister, the party president became a secondary thing, as it has even in BJP has been without a full-time after Nadda's term finished. So it doesn't really matter, because even in Jawaharlal Nehru's time, not everybody remembers who were the Congress presidents. And both of them were widely honored abroad. So it's very interesting, although they are ideologically poles apart. If you take their careers and their thing, there's a lot in common.
And both, want to leave a legacy.
Both
the new
want
India,
to leave and have
the India of their dreams. But your own equations, working with Nehru, did you also have any memories or anecdotes with Sardar Patel?
About?
With Sardar Patel.
Sardar Patel, of course, he played a major role in my life. In two ways. First of all, I was in a wheelchair because of this hip problem. I had been in a wheelchair for 6 months when Sardar Patel visited us in Jammu and asked my father, why is he in a wheelchair? He said, Maharaja Sahab, immediately make arrangements to send him to America for treatment, otherwise sari umar wheelchair mein rahega. So he forced my father to immediately make arrangements to send me to America. That's why I've been walking for all this time. I still walk with a limp because I've got a fused hip, but nonetheless, I played tennis, I played golf, So I'm very, very grateful to him on that account. Otherwise, वाकई में शायद wheelchair में रहता. Secondly, when I came back and when this whole change took over, he was very kind. He invited me to be his guest in Dehradun, where he was living at that time, for a fortnight. Money Ben was looking after him, his daughter. मगर मुझे उन्होंने बुलाया, शाम को बुला के बात करते थे. He was also very kind to me. All these leaders, for some reason, took a liking to me.
I can guess why. But do you feel that, the debate today that Sardar Patel has been wronged by the Congress, or he was not made the Prime Minister, he should have been?
You see, the point is, there's no doubt that the Congress parties in the various states all supported Sardar Patel. But it was Gandhiji's decision, mind you. It was not Jawaharlal Nehru who appointed himself Prime Minister. It was Gandhiji who was the leader of the movement. He realized that what India needed was a charismatic younger person, known around the world, known throughout the country, rather than a very fine organization man who has not had that sort of experience. He took the decision, overruling the Congress committees.
Which is why the BJP has a whole grouse against Gandhiji now.
But the point is, he must have had it. And it is true, Sardar lived only for 2-3 years after that. He passed away in 1950. Jawaharlal carried on till 1964.
Which, I mean, one had known about Jinnah, then that would have been another story
Oh,
altogether.
no.
But you also met a whole lot of global world leaders. You know, anyone that stands out or something?
Well, world leaders, let me see. President Tito of Yugoslavia, very dynamic leader. He was the leader of the resistance to the Nazis, as you know. He created that whole Yugoslavia. He was there. I went around India with him. I was minister in waiting. I was impressed. I was impressed with the Shah of Iran, although he's thrown out and now he's not liked. But I was impressed with what he was at that time trying to do. Maybe he had Secret Service, had a lot of negative things, but he had a vision for his country. I went around India with him also. We visited him twice in Iran. Then
Met Mr. Mandela.
Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, of course, I happened to be there soon after he was released. We were in 1993, we were celebrating 100 years of Gandhiji's arrival. 1893 he had arrived, Gandhiji's arrival. And I was sent by the government of India to represent the government. So we had a lot of, in fact, if I may be a little vain, the greatest compliment I've ever received in my life. After I spoke, Nelson went up to Asha, my wife, and tapped her and said, "You know, you're lucky to be married to this man."
What did she say is what I want to know.
I don't know. But what greater compliment can I possibly get?
Absolutely.
But that's just the thing, you know. But Nelson, there was no trace of bitterness. 27 years he'd been in prison there. No trace of bitterness. What a man. Great man. I also met Yasser Arafat.
Really?
I met him in Beirut. And he was very fond of India. He was very fond of Indira ji. बहन मांगती थी इंडिया जी को. At that time we were pro-Palestine, you know, we were all this thing. And there's reason to believe that he sent Indira ji a message. Say, be careful, there are plots on to assassinate you. ऐसा सुना जाता है, I don't know.
Could well be. But now looking ahead, you see, you know, you see Omar Abdullah.
Then I must tell you one more man. I met King Baudouin and Fabiola of Belgium. He was the king of Belgium. My age, very good friends we became. He and Baudouin and Fabiola and my wife Asha and I. We visited them many times. Very, very fine man he was. So these are some of the major ones that I remember. Sorry, you asked a question.
मैं आगे पूछ रही थी now अगली पीढ़ी के बारे में थोड़ा, you know, we have Omar Abdullah there, we have Rahul Gandhi here.
These younger people come up with good. I've known them since, I've known Rahul since before he was born, more or less. I knew Rajiv. I was much younger than me. When Rajiv and Sanjay were growing up, I was already a teenager. They were just going to school and all. And Rahul, I've seen, he is certainly improving. Those long marches that he had, the Bharat Jodo marches, I think that transformed his personality. He looks different also, he looks more mature. He's got a long way to go, mind you.
Compare him to Priyanka. Everybody's saying that.
Well, Priyanka.
See, that smile comes with Priyanka.
Priyanka is a very bright girl, I must say. I think in some ways she's brighter in the sense that she's, you know.
So Mrs. Gandhi must have been around that age when you met her?
No, Mrs. Gandhi, no, Indira Gandhi, much older.
Much older, sorry, my maths.
Much older than me.
Sorry.
But those of them, I've known them for a long time. Known this whole family. I'm not now actively involved in politics. You know, I'm more or less, if you like, an elder statesman.
The philosopher politician.
I don't know about that. So that sort of thing. So, as I said, I've seen a lot. I've been very fortunate to have been able to meet so many people. My wife and I were married for 60 years.
Yes.
She was a Nepalese princess.
That's right. Yes.
And 60 years, she passed away on the 60th year of our wedding. We were married when I was 19, she was 13.
My God.
And we traveled around the world together, and we had, it was a great, great joy. We had our children, grandchildren, and so on. So I've been very fortunate, I must say. I've had certain physical problems, but that's a different matter.
But it's amazing how you've kept fit and win yourself. You're what, 93 now?
I'm 93, should be 94 in a couple of months.
But yet I hear you talking about Elvis Presley and.
I love rock music.
Yes.
I love all three streams. Let me talk about music. Folk music, I learned from my mother, who was from a small village in Himachal.
Right, Kangra.
Small village, Kangra. She was a village girl. She wasn't a princess or anything. So she brought her dolkis and bajas and all with her, and that's where I learned Dogri music, folk songs, which I later put together. I've recorded them, I've sang them. They're on TV and they're on radio. Then my father was very fond of Indian classical music. So from the age of 11, he got me to learn classical music. He got a tutor. I had to do 1 hour a day, riyaz and all, very strict, because he was a great disciplinarian. So I love classical music. अब भी गाता हूँ मैं. अभी हफ्ते के एक बार रियाज करता हूँ. And then I also love this rock music. I started long before Elvis with that group which was before them, and then Elvis and all coming down to Billy Joel is one of my favorites.
River of Dreams, I heard you talk about.
River of Dreams, such a good song. And ABBA, with Fernando, if you remember, very good song they have. And Madonna and various. That is the level I came. After that, I don't know what's happening. That's when I stopped. But I still love those songs.
To all these people who आजकल divide करते हैं, the debate on Hinduism, what would you tell them?
You see, my latest book is called The Eternal Religion, Glimpses of Hinduism. I've written quite a lot on Hinduism. So, I write mainly on Vedanta, which is an inclusive philosophy. It doesn't exclude anybody. Ishvara sarvbhutanam hrideshe tishtati. The Lord resides in the heart of all beings. And the Brahman, the all-pervasive Brahman, and sometimes with form or without form, does not discriminate between gender, between caste, or between religion. So that is the basic premise of the Vedanta, which is one of the reasons why Hinduism is perhaps the only religion in the world that offers you options. You can choose your deity, you can choose your male deity, you can choose your female deity, you can choose a zoomorphic deity. You need not choose a deity at all, you can do it without that. And so they offer you options. No other religion gives you options. It is unique, number one. Number two, perhaps this is the only religion which accepts all faiths to the all paths to the divine. You see, acceptance of multiple paths to the divine is the key. If you say mine is the only path, and you are all wrong, no. I can say mine for me is my own path. For you, you choose your own path. That I feel is the real heart of Hinduism. And that is where some people move away from that and try to make Hinduism a sort of Semiticize it, which is not going to work.
And where do you stand on this destiny debate, the Greek view, the Shakespearean views? One is that it is written, जो लिखा हुआ है वही करना है. Other is
that is a philosophical question. I think no. I don't believe that everything is pre-programmed. It's like a game of bridge. You're dealt a hand. That's what you're dealt with. But how you play it? You can play it skillfully, you can play it foolishly. So you're born in a certain position, certain genetics, certain background, family. How do you use it? You can become a alcoholic, you can become a sort of weird and sort of destroy everything, or you can build. So it is up to us what we do. We can't blame the divine for the things that we do wrong. We are grateful that we are here. We are grateful that we can see and talk and hear and our senses are there. How are we going to use them? That's up to us. That's the line I take.
Before I let you go, can you give us थोड़ा हमारे लिए कुछ गा सकते हैं आप? You've been
नहीं गाऊंगा तो क्या गाऊंगा तो फिर आप गाने का प्रोग्राम रखिए एक दिन तो
तो
गाऊंगा
थोड़ा सा little bit.
कैसे गाऊंगा मैं क्या गाऊं डोगरी गाऊं हिंदी
डोगरी
गाऊं
गाइए।
उर्दू गाऊं गजल गाऊं
जो
क्या
मन में आए,
गाऊं
as a
रिसाइट करूं कुछ
recite करें आज।
It's a poem by Yeats. I went into the hazel wood because the fire was in my head, and cut and peeled a hazel wand and hooked a berry to a thread. And when white moths were on the wing and moss-like stars were flickering out, I threw the berry in the stream and caught a little silver trout. When I had laid it on the floor, I went to blow the fire flame, but something rustled on the floor, and someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossom in her hair, who called me by my name and ran and faded through the brightening air. Though I'm old with wandering through hollow lands and hilly lands, I will find out where she has gone and kiss her lips and take her hands and walk amid long dappled grass and pick till time and times are done the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun. What a beautiful poem.
Thank you so much, and what a beautiful conversation.
If you want to get me on this, 2 घंटे बोलता ही रहूँगा.
So I'm going to come back with you and take it to our time slot because I definitely want more. Thank you so much.
Such a pleasure, dear. Such a pleasure
Thank
meeting
you so
you.
much.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.